can start now. First of all, I want to say good evening, dear friends, colleagues, and our participants of the School of Young Scientists 3.0. My name is Irina Khrimenko, and I'm glad to welcome you on our first webinar, Ethical Aspects of Biomedical Research. I want to present you our dearest speaker, Armen Yuri Gasparyan, MD, PhD, FECS, Associate Professor of Medicine, Department of Rheumatology and Research and Development, Dudley Group NHC Foundation Trust, Teaching Trust of the University of Birmingham, United Kingdom. I remind you that you can ask all the questions in the chat below, and at the end, the speaker will answer them. We thank you for coming and wish you a useful and pleasant time.
So, shall we start? Dear colleagues, friends, it's a great pleasure and privilege to be here today with you online to run this virtual meeting covering some of the important aspects of ethical research and publishing. And I am hopeful that today's webinar will be useful to novice researchers and authors who are planning to do good research, ethical research, and publish in good journals locally or in other international index journals. So I have some experience of editing journals, lecturing, consulting patients, and working with medical students. Medical students nowadays encounter a number of problems because of COVID-19 pandemic, because of limitations due to the pandemic, and because of the urgency of moving towards online research and online meetings. So hopefully today's webinar will elucidate or will enlighten you in some of the important aspects of research and publishing. Main aim today is to overview basic principles of authorship, which is the most important point of research, ethical research, and also I'll cover other aspects of ethical research. Without knowing these aspects of ethical research, medical students will face a number of difficulties and problems, barriers when they start writing articles and start working with bibliographic databases for their research and publishing. Of course, we have to highlight some of the important online databases and platforms for medical students, regardless of their university rankings, language of instructions. So all medical students all over the world should have access to the best and widely visible, widely used databases. So principles of ethical research, writing, publishing, and searching are the same for medical researchers, medical students all over the world. Hopefully today's meeting will be also useful to journal editors, young, ongoing journal editors who are going to establish medical journal, medical students journal, and help novice researchers, new authors to try their to try to publish good articles. So I know about some promising medical journals in Europe, in developed countries, in Eastern Europe, and also in your country. And medical students journals also have to cover ethical aspects of scholarly research. So, one of my best quotes comes from Sir Robert Hutchinson, who was editor of Lancet. Lancet, you probably know, is the top general medical journal, the highly prestigious journal covering uh, highest level of medical evidence, and its reputation is unshakable over the past 2 centuries. So Sir Robert Hutchison mentioned that the amount of writings of a profession is a measure of its vitality and activity. So if you, as a researchers, as authors, publish a lot of articles, it means that your field of science is active, alive, and it points to vitality of your medical field. So you should also know that quality of these articles is a rough indication of intellectual state of your field. So if you publish hundreds, thousands of articles, it's not enough. You may publish a handful of articles, 1, 2, 3 articles, and bring reputation to your medical university, to your department, increase quality of your publication, and increase rank of your own scholarly rank. So it's better to have balance between a number of publications and quality of these publications. So this principle is important for startup novice researchers who should take an extra effort to do ethical research and to publish useful articles, publish in index journals, whether it's local, Eastern European, or uh, foreign journal, international journal. So there are some associations. I would strongly encourage research managers, those who supervise your medical student research, to familiarize with recommendations of these globally important editorial associations. First of all, you should know that ethics is regulated, research and publication ethics is regulated by Committee on Publication Ethics, with about 13,000 uh, editors, researchers membering this association. It's UK-based association, but uh, recommendations, flowcharts, algorithms of these associations have global reach, are of global importance. The second most important association, highly prestigious association, is International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. Your research managers, your university administrators, those who supervise PhD dissertations, they should learn uh, all points presented in regularly updated recommendations of International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. So importance of their recommendations, uh, difficult to undermine, because all medical specialties, all medical authors may learn a lot by reading regularly or annually updated recommendations. As a journal editor, I am a member of World Association of Medical Editors. Hopefully, some of you will become chief editors of your medical students journal, and they will also join this highly prestigious and the largest association of medical journal editors. Please note that all research fellows, researchers who start doing research at some point will have to publish their research report in a good journal. Then they will become peer reviewers of other influential manuscripts submitted to other journals. And by doing, by acting as a peer reviewers, by familiarizing with basics of research reporting, reviewers will face an opportunity to join editorial boards of influential journals. So, researcher, author, reviewer, editor is a continuum, the most important continuum in our academic life. It starts by doing small research for medical students, research for your medical students journal. So, and for all universities, any university, it's a matter of reputation to launch and run successful medical students journal in any language. But of course, English is now lingua franca of scientific discourse, and I would strongly encourage you to launch your medical students journal in English and encourage your medical students to try write small essays, small opinion pieces, publish their case reports, learn a lot how to write and publish articles, and become skillful researcher and seasoned author. I should also mention about Council of Science Editors. We are trying hard to establish Editors Association in your part of world, and hopefully that Council of Editors in your part of world will play an important role for uniting efforts of all scholars and avoiding ethical problems, avoiding unethical research and unethical publications. I mentioned about International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. So it's a small association, but if you pay attention to titles of journals membering this association and to globally important organizations, you can imagine how important this association is. So there are currently uh, 12 top scientific medical journals membering these associations, like Lancet, Journal of Korean Medical Science, Annals of Internal Medicine, BMJ, British Medical Journal, uh, New England Journal of Medicine, and two organizations, National Library of Medicine, you know PubMed, which is platform of National Library of Medicine, and WAMI. WAMI is the largest association of medical editors. So this association publicizes recommendations for conduct, reporting, editing, and publication of scholarly work in medical journals. So I hope that you will also, those who are going to write articles will also go to website, download recommendations, and read entire document. So this document is about a number of points related to ethical research and publishing. First of all, it tells us who are authors, who satisfy authorship criteria. You should know that authors should meet all four criteria of International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. They should substantively contribute to scholarly work, to writing article. They should revise this article, take part in revision. They should approve article manuscript before submission, before forwarding to a journal, target journal, and all authors should also take responsibility for all aspects of scholarly work. So all scientists who are going to do research, they should know about their share of responsibility, let's say statistics, let's say data gathering, data analysis, interpretation, and reporting, and they all should meet four criteria of International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. I also put here ORCID ID, Open Researcher and Contributor ID. all medical researchers who are going to publish abstract of a congress, small case report, they should acquire freely available ORCID ID, their digital ID, and list all their academic or scholarly accomplishments on that platform. So ORCID, it's pronounced ORCID, but we should read it as orchid, because orchid is a flower and it's easier to memorize. So orchid is a digital ID of a medical researcher, of researcher in any field of science. These recommendations also tell us about predatory journals. You know about predators who prey on uh, animals or naive animals in wild world, animal world, in the field or in the world of publishing. We also have predators who charge authors enormously, several hundreds and even thousands of dollars for no any quality service, and they post your naive authors articles, good authors, in useless platforms, online platforms. I am sure you also know from your research managers, from your university administrators, that there are numerous instances of publishing good articles in English in useless or wasteful journals. So please avoid publishing your good articles in wasteful, useless journals which do not meet to any ethical or quality standard. So you should know about predatory journals and good journals. You should always strive to publish in good quality journals. You should also know, as medical students who passed statistics or public health course, you should know basics of biostatistics, and you should know something about probability, that we should, in our research, analyze absolute numbers, absolute data, and we should process it in a statistical way to present it as a valid, reliable data. So you should know about p-value, probability, 95% confidence interval, about comparisons made between two groups, t-test, students t-test, or correlation analysis, regression analysis. These are basic statistical tests that you should know, and you should analyze your data statistically, and you should learn statistics yourself to avoid referring to statisticians, because I know that even PhD candidates, not fluent at statistics, not good at statistics, they ask statisticians to analyze work, and this way they dash prospects of these novice or naive researchers and fellows. So you should do everything yourself, starting from writing, reporting, statistically analyzing, selecting references for your research article, and submitting to good index journal. Hopefully you will have many good journals in your part of world. I mean, a number of English journals and numerous non-English journals, but adhering to best ethical standards to help increase your chances of competing with leading scientists from Western world, Western Europe, other countries, developed countries in Europe, Asia, and worldwide. So you should also know about references. Again, please go to recommendations of International Committee of Medical Journal Editors and familiarize yourselves with basic principles of citing and referencing for your research articles. I should refer to one of the basic and rather old, outdated statements, but it's still important. Uh, Singapore Statement on Research Integrity. It was published in 2010, 10 years ago, and it tells us about honesty, accountability of researchers, courtesy, professional courtesy, and fairness in your research, and also good stewardship of research on behalf of others. So you should know about integrity of research. Integrity means everything is okay, everything is clear, based on ethical, well validated, evidence based research. I was one of the co-authors of Sarajevo Declaration on Integrity and Visibility of Scholarly Publications. So it was published 4 years ago, based on lengthy discussions among a number of uh, advanced journal editors, editors from indexed medical journals, and we decided to publish these declaration as an important document for those who are going to run research, to publish articles, particularly in non-Anglophone world. So we published 10 points of this statement, this declaration, which is like 10 commandments for researchers. So number 3 point tells that authors and all other scholarly contributors should get ORCID ID, their digital ID, and they should maintain integrity throughout their scholarly research and publishing. So they should know about research ethics and publication ethics. And strategic points of action for all novice non-Anglophone researchers is to focus on research topics of great importance for their universities, their countries and departments. So they should think uh, globally but act locally. So they should explore topics of great importance, relevance to their part of world, to their universities, to their country. So hopefully our participants will also, those who are going to write articles, do research, they will stick to all 10 points of Sarajevo Declaration. So now about authorship. What we should know about authorship. First of all, as a medical student, you should know that when we start research, we operate or do searches with a set of medical keywords, structured keywords, like you do searches via Google, Google Scholar, Google Academia. You use logical keywords. Medics or medical students should use structured medical keywords called uh, um, vocabulary is called medical subject headings, and abbreviation reads mesh. So we should use mesh keywords to have more specific searches. So I use authorship as a keyword, mesh keywords, retrieved definition of this keyword, which tells us that authorship is a profession of writing, and also the writer or author is the creator who knows about uh, integrity, who knows about what constitutes plagiarism and avoids plagiarism, and also uh, someone who is well at English or other languages for writing or drafting manuscript. So try to use these mesh keywords for your searches as well in any field of science. So I also use Scopus. Scopus is a bibliographic database of Elsevier, and hope that our ongoing researchers will also extensively use resources of Scopus. So I entered authorship as a keyword and retrieved more than 23,000 documents, tagged with this keyword authorship. It relates to writing. I highlighted, underlined uh, in red some of the key essential keywords related to authorship. These are publishing, uh, writing, ethics, you see ethics, and many other uh, keywords. So by these keywords are tagged in many articles. We may also uh, construct cloud-based infographic if we have a specific program, and we can visualize which keywords are more related, more important uh, uh, in terms of relation to authorship. So when I use searches, when I employ searches through Scopus, I pay attention which journals extensively cover authorship issues. You may use, instead of authorship, any other keywords, and you should also employ the same strategy. You should pay attention which journals predominantly cover your topic of interest. Scientometrics and many other journals cover authorship issues, authorship articles. But probably you know about Nature. Nature is one of the top scientific journals where Nobel Prize winners, laureates publish their articles. So it's a hub of evidence-based or innovative science, Nature. So if Nature publishes articles related to authorship, it means that this topic is of global importance to all researchers, all authors all over the world. I also pay attention to authors who extensively publish in the field of authorship, and you can also do the same. You can also rank authors in descending order. Pay attention to 10 top scientists who publish most in the field of authorship. Also, you may pay attention to countries extensively covering authorship issues. Of course, you see here graph of top 10 countries involved in publishing in the field of authorship. So United States, United Kingdom, Spain, Canada. So these are top countries interested in authorship and publishing extensively in this field. Unfortunately, I cannot see here many Central and Eastern European countries. They are not so concerned with authorship, but authorship is a pillar of ethical research and publishing. At the start of your research, you should divide your responsibilities between yourself, and you should know who will be lead author, middle author, last author, corresponding author, and who will be responsible for communication throughout peer review and post-publication. So in Scopus, I also pay attention to specialties or areas, scientific areas dealing with authorship, and I see that medicine just third most important scientific area covering authorship issues. Social sciences experts, arts and humanities experts, or computer scientists are also concerned with authorship. So I'll present some two examples of well publicized articles dealing with authorship. Hopefully you will also do the same. You will also pay attention to articles with citations, with abundance of citations, and also articles extensively commented on social media. My take-home message today is to for our participants is to rely on social media for scholarly communication, for scholarly purposes, not just for networking, not just for fun. Use Twitter, use Facebook, use other social media channels, Instagram, and other popular social media channels for sharing your comments, for finding influential researchers who may become your supervisors, international supervisors, external supervisors at some point. So please use Twitter, familiarize yourself with how you can use it, how to take part in blogging or microblogging, sharing your thoughts in just few words. So you see example of an article published on authorship, published in Nature journal, Nature. Credit where credit is due. It's about accrediting scholars who deserve authorship. So, in this article is well promoted, well cited 77 times in dimensions. So you probably know about Google Scholar. Dimensions is also something similar to Google Scholar. Again, you may perform searches, free searches through dimensions. You probably do PubMed searches, Google searches, but I would also ask you to do searches through Scopus database and Dimensions platform. So you see on this screen also that magic number 390. So it's article attention, altmetrics attention score, social media attention score, based on their algorithm. It's altmetrics algorithm, US based platform for aggregating information from all social media channels. And you see that this article is well promoted, well discussed on social media, particularly by US Twitter users. And you see that more than 370 tweets or comments on Twitter were gathered in relation to this article. So now another example, another article, and again I have access to altmetrics attention score, quite impressive, 4400, more than 4400. And again we see that more than 6,300 tweets uh, come to this article, and dimension citation to this article is 45. So we at some point of our career should also pay attention to citations to our articles published by other authors, and also social media attention coverage. It's important, and sometimes social media coverage also helps to understand meaning of research, implications of research, and also pick some mistakes, honest or unintentional errors, or also intentional, quite serious errors, ethical errors, which may result in so-called retractions when article is published and an error or mistake is surfaced, and journal editors and publishers initiate retraction, pulling out article from publishing platform. So please be very careful, even if publishing is just the beginning of article's life. After that, post-publication communication is not less important. So for your post-publication communication and for your academic career, you need digital ID, ORCID ID, which is supported and endorsed by a number of influential research institutions, um, digital tools helping researchers to run their research and publishing. So at the moment, there are more than 10 million scholars having ORCID IDs. So 10 million scholars visualize their articles by listing their publications on their ORCID IDs. So you may also freely register and maintain your ORCID ID, your digital ID for life. It's once for life. You cannot have several IDs. One author, one digital ID for life. So, and all authors, again, should know that only those who meet 4 authorship criteria are considered as authors. So if you are going to build your academic career, you should know that you should uh, take part in research, in writing, in revision. You should approve article before sending it to a journal, and it's rather painful. The whole process, research, peer review, and publishing is painful, and we all know that if no pain, no gain. So no pain, no gain. You should pass all steps of research and publishing to become a skilled researcher, author, and at some point also reviewer and editor. So there is evidence suggesting that not all researchers, even skilled researchers, know about authorship criteria. Survey among scholars in the field of rehabilitation and physical medicine revealed that only 56% of surveyees were familiar with International Committee of Medical Journal Editors authorship criteria. So hopefully our participants will know, will learn something based on this webinar and will know how to formulate their authorship criteria. So you see examples how to disclose or report authorship contributions. So let's say these two authors analyze data. Other two authors contributed to the conception, design, and interpretation of data. And you see also that all authors gave final approval for final version to be of the manuscript to be published. So these type of disclosures, authorship disclosures, should be mandatory also in your part of all, in your medical students journals and in your index journals. So now about conflicts of interest. You probably know about conflicts of interest. Some of the basic conflicts of interest refer to family relations or nepotism. So again, I refer to to National Library of Medicine structured vocabulary, MESH, medical subject headings. Their definition of uh, conflict of interest as a keyword. It it is necessary to understand, and they use this keyword, structured keyword, for searches via Scopus, Dimensions, Google Scholar, Medline, National Library, or PubMed. So conflict of interest is a situation when personal interests conflicting society interests. So you should know that your primary interests are towards your profession, towards your society, and any personal interest should be subjugated to your professional interests. So you should serve to your professional community, to your medical journals. You should be honest, you should be ethical, and you may, by this way, you may avoid problems with authorship, with conflicts of interest. So there are financial and non-financial conflicts of interest, and if you take part in international congresses, they mandate disclosure of conflicts of interest at the start of presentation. So it's important to have one slide devoted to conflicts of interest or absence of financial or non-financial conflicts of interest. International Committee of Medical Journal Editors have their conflict of interest disclosure form, and hopefully our editors submitting their articles to good journals will also have to fill this form and submit to journals. So again, I have evidence that when in 2010, this conflict of interest form was introduced, let's say in good journals, disclaimers or disclosures of conflict of interest doubled. So, and you see here examples how editors, reviewers, and authors disclose, state about their potential or perceived conflict of interest. Here is editor-in-chief's conflicts of interest disclosure. Again, in your part of world, there are many conflicts of interest among your authors, research managers who cooperate with pharmaceutical industry and never disclose this type of conflicts, but they have to do. So I also published an article about conflicts of interest uh, in good journal, index journal, and I emphasize that all scholarly contributors, authors, reviewers, and editors and researchers should know about conflicts of interest and disclose their conflicts of interest. Here, an example of evidence suggesting that in good evidence-based articles, not all scholars disclose their conflicts of interest. Let's say in guidelines of Rheumatology Society, also we see problems with conflicts of interest disclosures, non-disclosure. So it means we found out that roughly 1/3 of clinical guidelines or practice guidelines lack conflict of interest disclosures. So you see none, no non-disclosure in practice guideline published for practitioners in 2010. But later, because of discussions of conflicts of interest, these scholars started to disclose their conflicts of interest. And you see here long list of disclosures and relationships with pharmaceutical industry. So some of you, the best scholars, the best authors will act as peer reviewers at some point. They again should refer to International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. Peer review is critical part of research articles processing, and they should also know again about peer review as a scholarly, as a structured keywords of mesh. Again, you may use this keyword for your searches through PubMed, Google Scholar, Dimensions, Scopus, and you see that not, I also refer to my research, and even in good index journals, we still have problems with disclosure of peer review processing in journals. So peer review is another pillar of ethical research and publishing. We should know about different types of peer review, single blind, double blind, or public or open. We should also know that at least 2 external peer reviewers, skilled reviewers, should be involved in processing manuscripts. Sometimes statistical reviewer is necessary to evaluate article, etc., etc. So now I should tell you that reviewers are credited on Publons platform. Publons is an influential platform for academic ranking, for increasing your academic reputation. Even for medical students, it's important. Even for ongoing or novice researchers, it's important. So the more you do research, the more you review manuscripts for journals, the higher is your academic rank and reputation, global international reputation. So I refer to your country, and I see that there are more than 44,000 peer reviewers with quite impressive list of reviewer accomplishments. The best is Professor Alexander Berezin, you see, from Zaporozhye. There are many others from Danilo Halitsky, Lviv, from Ivano-Frankivsk, Chernihiv, Zavolotny, etc. So now I told you about retractions, article retractions. Something is published and at some point it's commented on social media, or readers spot mistakes, errors, and they notify chief editor that article contains a mistake or big mistake called error. So in the first case, editor may correct or publish corrigenda. In the latter case, editor should retract or pull out that published article from platform, retract article. So I refer to a field of science which is close to my special interest, and I know that in my field there are, at least at the time of publishing this article, there were 22 PubMed indexed articles, and 7 of these articles were retracted due to plagiarism. So what is plagiarism? We should know about plagiarism to avoid these uh, ethical transgression, violation of research and publication ethics. So I presented here a sample of rheumatology articles which were retracted, 22 articles, and you see reasons for retractions, reasons for pulling out of publishing platform, methodological errors, data falsification, duplicate publication. Sometimes you publish something in your own language, then translate it in English and publish in another good journal. It's still unethical. It's called duplicate publication, translation plagiarism. You plagiarize or you violate copyrights and you publish the same article in another journal. So it's called duplication or translated plagiarism. Plagiarism, you may also publish English article and copy from other sources, paste in your article, and it's still plagiarism, it's still violation of research and publication ethics. You should avoid that type of misconduct. So it may be also that retractions are due to statistical errors. So please familiarize yourselves with basics of statistics and try to avoid too sophisticated tests at your stage of research and publishing. Use basic statistical tests. Now, example of serial plagiarist or serial killer who killed his own articles. More than 10 articles were published by orthopedic surgeon Bernardino Saccomani, Italian orthopedic surgeon, who probably was busy surgeon, but he wanted a fame, he wanted academic reputation, and he published review articles and simply copied chunks of texts from other articles and published these articles in reputable journals, Springer journals. Most all his reviews were copy-paste articles, and these articles were checked post-publication because publisher acquired quite powerful anti-plagiarism software in at some point and rechecked all previously published articles and spotted that some articles were overly plagiarized. So all these articles were retracted. Now, a few words about plagiarism. You should know about definition of plagiarism. I refer to Oxford Dictionary and also to Council of Science Editors definition of plagiarism. So in our own words, it's copying someone's ideas, someone's words, text, graphics, and pretending that these are our own intellectual property. So it's a violation of ethics to pretend that we copy and we sell out as our own intellectual property. So please avoid this type of misconduct. And plagiarism, not just textual, it also involves ideas, quite prevalent in Western, in developed world, copying of tables, graphics, prevalent in some countries, South Asian countries, and we also we deal with all types of plagiarism. So again, I refer to National Library of Medicine structured keywords. Plagiarism is passing off as one's own work of another without credit. So if you copy something, you should present that source, original source from where you copied. Otherwise, it will be considered as plagiarism. So reasons of plagiarism. Why scholars plagiarize? Usually American scholars or fluent in English scholars, they claim that it's okay to copy own texts, methodology, or other parts of articles, previously published articles. It's okay because it is their own intellectual property. However, it's considered as academic laziness when you copy even your own texts and republish it without rewarding, without paraphrasing, without presenting in a new way. So plagiarism is also due to poor knowledge of English. It's usually in non-Anglophone countries. So how we avoid plagiarism? We simply should not copy sentences, texts, paragraphs verbatim, word by word. We should avoid that. We should write everything in our words. We read something, we read good articles in good journals, improve our main clinical or scientific thinking, and then present in our own words. When in doubt that ideas are not our own, we should find relevant reference and cite it. Attach uh, something, attach sentences to a specific reference. Never recycle or never reuse graphics from other sources. If you do that, you should obtain official permission from primary publisher. But usually it's better to draw your own graphics without copying, uh, without stealing someone's graphics. Always you should ask permission, official permission, if you commit, if you try to republish something, graphics from other sources. Now, finally, we should mention about search methodology. So you should know about PubMed, it's free. Scopus is proprietary service. Your research manager should obtain get access to Scopus. And you should also know about Scimago Journal and Country Ranks. That one is free platform. And of course, your research manager should also know about highly reputable Web of Science platform. These are all platforms for quality scholarly research, and you should also perform searches through all these platforms. So now about Scimago Journal and Country Rank. This platform is employed to retrieve list of journals dealing with ranking of journals in any discipline in any part of world. Let's say here I presented list of journals from your country, 65 journals, and some of them are influential, but most of these journals are low rank in terms of citations, in terms of global importance. So you should also try to publish journals of global importance, and you should boost reputation of your journals. I am heavily involved in editing journals and doing research in your part of world, in Europe, and I hope that all our efforts will be rewarding in terms of having quality journals from your part of world. Quality also means good English quality based on relevant and reputable database searches and free of any misconduct. So in medicine, we have only 3 good journals from your country with relatively high rank based on citations, you see. Hopefully, again, we will have more journals will be covered by Scopus and other databases, and their reputation will grow up and up. You may also consider comparing list of your journals with neighboring countries, and you see here good examples. You should always take that example, and you should compete with good journals. Your journal should compete always to win that win-win competition. So you see that your neighboring countries have higher rank journals in terms of citations. So now, how to improve quality of your references and successfully compete with other journals? You should know how to search. I presented these search platforms, but I also should mention about good references, good articles you should use and cite, and you should avoid citing poor quality retracted articles from poor journals, unethical journals, predatory journals. So please go to these web platform, these article, learn more about how to cite and build up references for your articles and publish your articles in good journals. Now about conclusions. So I usually try to have a limited number of conclusions or take-home messages to avoid confusing you. So my main message today is please familiarize with basic principles of ethical research and publishing, authorship criteria, peer review principles, how to avoid plagiarism, what is retracted article, and how to successfully publish in good journal. So it's first message, and second message is to familiarize with ethical reporting standards and improve quality of research in your part of world. So thank you for your attention. Now I am open to your questions, comments, and discussions, and I'll be happy to continue our cooperation, our communication after this webinar by staying in touch on Twitter, on other social media platforms, and regularly discussing with you issues of great concern. Thank you for your attention. Over to you.
Yes, we also want to say thank you because we are really grateful for such interesting, informative, and really fascinating webinar. We also hope to hear your webinar once more and keep in touch in any social media in any way. And now I think we have some time for questions from the participants. We have someone here and I've already translated them. So the first one, what do you think about the fact that very often the authors of the article indicate statisticians who performed exclusively mathematical analysis, only mathematical analysis? Is it worth it, or is it better to make it in acknowledgement?
Okay, so who asked that question? If possible,
That question
please.
was
City, which city? Which university?
Poltava.
Okay,
Poltava,
your
Ukraine.
university. Okay, good. So
Yes.
usually we suggest to list statisticians in the acknowledgement section. Acknowledgements is also important section, though it's different from author bylines, and their credit is slightly lower compared to author credit. But if that statistician wants to become author, he or she should meet all four criteria of authorship by International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, should meet substantive contribution, substantive intellectual contribution. Mathematical analysis is not considered as intellectual contribution. It's technical, mechanical. Sorry about that. So second is taking part in revision, improvement of article. It's also important. So second mandatory criterion. Third criterion is to take part in, to agree or choose journal, target journal, and send article to that particular journal. And fourth important or new criterion is to be accountable for all aspects of research work. So if statistician can take full responsibility for writing, for conception of study, for methodology selection and use employment, also other scholarly work aspects, then that statistician can be listed alongside other authors. Other than that, that statistician should be modest enough to be listed in the acknowledgement.
Okay, thank you. I think you answer that question very fully. And the second one is from Ivano-Frankivsk Medical University. So this question is: it considered that the double-blind studies has the highest quality. Can we somehow do this in the context of a PhD study?
No. So we should use single blind or double blind or public peer review for articles. So research peer review is different from PhD peer review. So if we defend or PhD candidate defends his or her PhD dissertation, it should be open. So scholars, skilled scholars, should evaluate, and they are considered as mentors. They are not peers. They have higher degree. They are more skilled. Their international rank is higher than PhD candidate, and they simply teach, educate PhD candidates. So it's a different review process, evaluation process. Peer review is when equals review each other. Let's say you have medical students journal, and you should pick medical students and ask these medical students to evaluate their peers, their medical students' work.
Mhm. Okay, thank you very much. And we have some questions. First of all, thank you for the lecture. That's what our participant says. I would like to hear your opinion on the concept of consent to participate in research in the field of psychiatry. From the point of view of biomedical norms, we should explain to the participant the essence and course of the research before he joins it. But if he is in a state of psychosis or his perception of reality is distorted, how correct is that? After all, the consent obtained will not be voluntary and conscious. Consciousness.
I got your point. Yeah. Excellent question. Of course. We should be very careful with children, with mentally disabled persons, and psychiatric patients. So, but we know that these cohorts, these subjects also have relatives or first degree relatives, parents. So, informed consent should be obtained from relatives of these subjects, and their relatives should know aim of your research study, where you are going to publish. You should always write a line that article will be published, this research report will be published in a journal widely visible, and it will be publicly available in your part of world. And you ask parents to publicize these reports with masking or unmasking identity of these subjects. Sometimes we have to publish case report of patients with mental health problems, and they cannot sign this written informed consent form. Then next akin to these subjects should sign that form, their relatives. The same refers to COVID-19 severe cases. If there are no patient with COVID-19 cannot sign informed consent form to allow you to publicize that case, his or her case report, then relatives should sign that form. If there are no relatives, if COVID-19 patient is in a isolated department, then head of department or someone responsible for ethics should sign, should allow you to publish your case report.
Okay, so parents or relatives are the only one who can do it with children and
mentally
people
disabled.
with mental problems. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are different types of mental problems.
Mm-hmm.
So psychosis or
Mm-hmm.
psychiatric problems where
Mm-hmm.
subjects do not understand, they perceive reality
Mm-hmm.
in a different way compared to normal healthy subjects, then parents should sign. Or if there are no parents, or if a subject is deceased, passed away, then head of department, head of university, hospital manager should take responsibility for research reporting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And one more question. Could you please elaborate on where to learn about different types of conflict of interest, with some examples of how to formulate the conflict of interest statements?
And again, which university?
This one,
it's okay.
a second.
So,
I think it's from
your
Poltava,
university.
Ukraine.
Okay, good. Thank you for
as far as I can see.
Interest. Yeah, you're quite active. Your medical students are active, and in these difficult times, they still have interest in research, in ethics, ethical research. Thank you for that. So, conflict of interest is among the most important aspects of research. Grant funding, article publishing. So those who obtain grant funds, those who obtain money from pharmaceutical industry for research reporting, for research and article writing, review articles, they are they have conflict of interest. They can write these articles and they can publicize in a conflict of interest statement that they got fee from pharmaceutical industry. In your part of world, it's a common form of conflict of interest. If you obtain funding for your research, you should express gratitude to your funder, your sponsor, and report it in an ethical way. PhD candidates obtain sponsorship from ministries, Ministry of Science, Education, and they should also report that funding in their articles. That article is part of PhD research sponsored by your university or a higher degree institution. It's covered by, expenses are covered. So specific question was about where these scientists where they can learn about conflict of interest. I mentioned about International Committee of Medical Journal Editors recommendations, which are updated on an annual basis. So please read International Committee of Medical Journal Editors recommendations. There are many other recommendations, but for you, for your medical students and your research managers, it's like a Bible or table recommendation, table book, handbook for your research. Without knowing points of these recommendations by International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, you cannot supervise your researchers, you cannot write ethical articles, and you cannot target good journals. Over to you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, okay, thank you very much. And we have one more question from Kharkiv Medical University, and it says, can we conduct a retrospective study of the established samples from already published clinical cases or series? Do we indicate all these used publications in the bibliography?
Okay, so the question, if I understood correctly, the question was, can we reuse data, published data? So I'll try to answer. We have a number of published articles, and in these articles, authors report some data. So we can take these data from published articles processed in a systematic review. So we may publish new article using previously published data in a systematic review, but still we should process this data, present these published data in a table for systematic review or in a meta-analysis, and it will be also good article, but it's a secondary article. Primary article is considered when we publish data without any similar analogs, without any similar data.
And there was a question, do we indicate all used publication in the bibliography?
Bibliography. Okay, so
Bibliography.
yeah, we should. First of all, when we write article, different parts of article, starting with the introduction, each sentence of our introduction part should be linked to a reference. If ideas presented in that sentence are not ours, if it is our idea or common knowledge, everyone knows about something, definition of a disease, there is no need to add reference, to cite a reference. But if something we used from published articles or analyzed, presented in our own words, we should link to a specific reference. One of the principles of ethical citations or ethical references is to limit number of references to a few, 1, 2, or 3. One scientific fact should be connected to 1 to 3 references, limited number of references. When we present multiple examples of references and artificially inflate or expand reference list, it is also incorrect. Sometimes it is also unethical.
Thank you very much. I think the answer was really full. And we have one more question in here. So I was thinking, if the patient cannot sign or no next to kin, then the research cannot be published. I just wanted to confirm about what you said. Head of the department have the right to publish patient's case history without the patient or next to kin signing off.
Okay, yeah, it's also possible. For case reports, you should obtain approval of patients, prior approval. First, you ask permission, that patient sign off that form, and then you report that case study. Sometimes we may process published case reports and present in a systematic review. There is no need to reuse their written informed consent forms. Sometimes ethics committee may also waive ethics approval or allow you to publish data without written informed consent obtained from patients or parents. Only in a case when you process archived data from hospital archive or another archive, and personal information is blinded. There is no risk that data will be published and identity of patients will be surfaced after publication. So that's possible. This is why ethics committees should be always conducted by PhD fellows, and they should inform them what type of research they are going to do and which part of their research should be covered by ethics approval. Ethics, we call it ethics review. Without ethics review, no any original research paper can be published.
Okay, thank you. And in the middle of our discussion, we have one more question from our student from Poltava who already asked a question. He said, sorry, I missed. Should you reference a review or directly an original publication that was part of a review?
Okay, so the question is from an advanced author, probably. Yes, in our review articles, we should process original research papers or primary publications, not secondary. Preference should be given to primary publications. When we cite secondary publications or review articles, it's incorrect. We may, but review articles usually contain a number of citable points, whereas primary publication or original research paper contains only one or two points for citations. So it's always a good writing practice to cite primary publication. Primary means case report, original research paper, opinion piece, short opinion piece, letter, not review article. Review articles usually considered as secondary publications. Hopefully,
Okay,
I satisfied
I
that
got it.
advanced author.
I really hope so. I think he's gonna write. Yeah, he write. Thank you very much. I think
You're
he's
welcome.
satisfied.
My
We are
pleasure.
really grateful. We want to say once again, thank you for coming, for being here, for giving this incredible webinar, for answering our questions, for this really interesting discussion that we've got. And we are really pleased to say that today in this webinar were students from Ukrainian Medical Stomatological Academy, from Ivano-Frankivsk Medical University, from Kharkiv Medical University, and also we have assistance from Ukrainian Medical Stomatological Academy. So there were a lot of people sitting here and getting this information, and we really hope to hear from you soon, to hear your maybe new webinar. And we also thank you, all the participants, for coming. And we're gonna have some other webinars from School of Young Scientifics, so they may also come and listen. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, Irina. So let me express
That was really interesting.
Thanks. Let me express my gratitude, first of all, to administration of your university for arranging such an unique and hopefully useful webinar for young researchers and research fellows with some publishing experience. Also, my big thank you to all participants from Kharkiv, from Ivano-Frankivsk, from Poltava, who are interested and who who spare some time to attend this type of meetings in these challenging times. It's always rewarding for speakers to see, to know that participants are interested in these topics, and hopefully they are going to use knowledge gained during this webinar in their daily practice. I also wish all of you to learn, to be more active in your research, publish more, run your medical students' journals in line with best ethical standards, publish good articles in index journals, English journals, journals indexed by Scopus, MEDLINE, Web of Science with citation impacts, and increase fame or reputation of your universities. My big thank you to Anastasia Shkodina, who is one of best young fellows, who also inspired me to attend this webinar as a speaker, and I hope will maintain our communication and share our impressions on Twitter and other social media channels. We should rely on Twitter for microblogging, for sharing our thoughts and continuing our collaboration. Thank you for your attention. Stay healthy, and hope to see you again next time, hopefully next year in a seminar or in-person
We also
meeting.
hope to see you.
Thanks
And
to
I
all.
see participants start writing here their thanks and thank you for a really incredible opportunity. So I can also read it from chat. Everybody is happy and pleasant. Thank you very much. I think now we can end and on this positive note.
Okay.
Okay. Bye. Have a
Thank you
nice
very
day.
much. Bye bye. Bye.
Goodbye.